Chapter 1: The Meeting of Souls. In the heart of a valley surrounded by towering, evergreen mountains, lay a village so peaceful that it felt as though time had forgotten it. The air was crisp, the skies vast, and the rhythm of life moved slowly, untouched by the rush of the outside world. But beneath the surface of this calm exterior, the village carried unspoken desires and whispered dreams. Among its residents was a young woman named Elen. To those who knew her, she was a force of nature, fierce and independent, yet kind-hearted and deeply compassionate. She was the embodiment of resilience, her strength born from the adversities she had faced. Orphaned at a young age, she had lost her family to the cruelties of life, yet she had never allowed grief to consume her. Instead, she channeled her energy into the care of the village, helping others as much as she could. In her small, cozy cottage at the edge of the village, Elen lived a life of simplicity, one filled with work during the day and dreams that stretched far beyond the mountains at night. Though Ellen's days were spent surrounded by people, her heart often felt the weight of loneliness. Despite the warmth and camaraderie of the village, she longed for something more. The villagers would often see her standing by the old wooden fence at the edge of her property, her gaze fixed on the distant peaks, as if searching for someone just beyond the horizon. Her heart was filled with hope, with an unshakable belief in a love so powerful that it could transcend everything, a love that could move mountains. Elen had always been a dreamer. Each night, as the stars emerged in the velvety sky, she would sit at her writing desk, pen in hand, pouring her deepest thoughts and emotions into letters. These weren't letters to any specific person, but to the unknown love she felt destined to meet. Her words were full of vulnerability and longing, speaking of the kind of connection she believed could fill the emptiness in her heart. She dreamed of a love that would be strong enough to heal her wounds, to bring light to the darkest corners of her soul. She wrote these letters with a faith so fierce, she knew that somewhere, someone must feel the same way. She carefully folded each letter and stored them away, waiting for the day they would no longer be needed. But far away, across forests and rivers, another soul was wandering the earth, searching for something that had eluded him his entire life. His name was Leo, and he was a traveler by nature. His life had been one of endless movement, never staying in one place for too long, always in search of the unknown. He had seen the world's wonders, the vast deserts of the south, the frozen tundras of the north, and the emerald seas to the east. He had met people from all walks of life, each with their own stories, their own struggles. He had witnessed breathtaking beauty and felt the sting of danger, but through it all, his heart had remained incomplete. Leo had always known that there was something missing, something he could not name. Despite the adventures and the excitement that filled his days, he often felt a deep ache within him, as though his heart was calling out for something more. He didn't know what he was searching for, only that he hadn't found it yet. It was as if an invisible thread was pulling him forward, urging him to keep going, to keep searching, for something greater awaited him beyond the next horizon. One misty morning, after days of walking through dense forests, Leo arrived at a small village. The air was fresh, and the village, nestled between the mountains, seemed like a place from a dream. As he walked through the quiet streets, his boots crunching on the gravel path, he noticed a stillness that made him pause. The village was peaceful, yet there was something in the air, something that made his heart quicken. He couldn't explain it, but it felt as though he had been drawn there for a reason. As he wandered through the village, his feet carried him toward the far edge, where the houses thinned out and the open fields stretched toward the mountains. And there, standing by a wooden fence, was Elen. She was gazing out at the distant peaks, her silhouette framed against the soft morning mist. Leo's breath caught in his throat. For reasons he couldn't understand, he felt an immediate connection to her, as if the ache in his heart had suddenly been soothed by her presence. It was a moment of quiet magic, two souls finding each other amidst the vastness of the world. When Elen turned and their eyes met, time seemed to stop. The village, the mountains, the world around them faded into the background. In that single, powerful gaze, they both knew that their lives had been leading them to this very moment. It wasn't just a meeting, it was the culmination of a journey they had both been on without even knowing it. Their hearts, though strangers, recognized each other with a profound sense of familiarity. Neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. Words would have been inadequate to express the depth of what they were feeling. It was as if their souls had collided, merging in a way that felt both ancient and new. In that moment, the longing, the loneliness, and the endless search that had filled their lives vanished, replaced by a sense of completeness they had never known before. For Elen, it was as though the love she had dreamed of, the love she had written about in her countless letters, had finally arrived. And for Leo, the emptiness that had followed him on his travels was filled with the warmth of a love that felt destined. It was a love that defied logic, one that went beyond the physical, straight to the core of who they were. Their hearts beat as one, their souls intertwined in a connection that was as undeniable as it was powerful. But their love was not destined to be without challenges. The village carried an old, dark secret, an ancient curse that had lingered for generations. It was said that no love as strong as theirs could survive within the village's borders. The elders, who had seen the curse destroy love after love, warned Elen and Leo to stay apart. They spoke of broken hearts and shattered lives, urging them to sever their connection before the curse could take hold. But Elen and Leo could not be swayed. They had found in each other what they had searched for their entire lives, and no curse could keep them apart. Their hearts, now intertwined, refused to let go. They knew that their love was different, that it had the strength to overcome any obstacle, even one as dark as the curse. And so, with the knowledge of the curse hanging over them, Elen and Leo chose to defy fate. They would not let fear dictate their future. Their love, they believed, was stronger than any force that sought to destroy it. Together, they would face whatever trials lay ahead, their hearts united, their souls ready for the battle to come. This was the beginning of their journey, a journey not just of love, but of defiance, of strength, and of the belief that true love could conquer even the darkest of fates. Chapter 2: The Journey of Love. As the days passed, Elen and Leo's love deepened, weaving itself into the very fabric of their souls. They were inseparable, their hearts bound by a connection that felt older than time itself. Each moment they spent together was like breathing fresh air, a lifeline in a world that felt increasingly uncertain. Yet, with every heartbeat they shared, the curse that loomed over the village grew stronger. It began subtly at first. Storms would suddenly arise from clear skies, sending thunderclaps that shook the earth and lightning that scorched the fields. The villagers whispered of strange happenings, crops withered without reason, animals grew restless, and a sense of dread began to creep into every corner of the village. Though no one spoke of it openly, the curse's power was undeniable. The love that Elen and Leo had found in each other, though pure and beautiful, seemed to provoke the darkness that had long been dormant. Elen could feel it in the air, thick and heavy like the weight of an approaching storm. And though fear threatened to creep into her heart, she refused to give in. So did Leo. Together, they had made a choice to defy the curse, to prove that their love was stronger than any darkness that sought to tear them apart. They believed, with every fiber of their being, that true love had the power to overcome anything. But as the weeks turned into months, the curse grew bolder. What had started as whispers became roars. The villagers began to distance themselves from Elen and Leo, casting wary glances their way, as if the couple's love might bring ruin to them all. Friends who had once smiled warmly at Elen now avoided her, and Leo noticed the doors that once welcomed him into homes were now closed. The village, once a place of peace, became a place of suspicion and fear. Determined not to let the growing tension destroy what they had, Elen and Leo sought advice from the village elders. The elders, steeped in the knowledge of ancient lore, told them the full history of the curse. Centuries ago, two lovers had tried to defy the same darkness that now haunted Elen and Leo. They had failed, their love consumed by the curse, and since then, no love as powerful had survived in the village. The elders spoke gravely, urging Elen and Leo to separate before it was too late. The curse cannot be broken, they warned. It will destroy everything. Love as powerful as yours has always been the trigger. But Elen and Leo would not be swayed. Their hearts, now fully entwined, refused to let go. They knew their love was different, that it had been forged through a connection so deep it could defy even the darkest forces. And so, despite the warnings, they made a bold decision. They would embark on a journey to break the curse once and for all. The answers, they believed, lay far beyond the village, in a place where the curse had been born. With only their love as their guide, they set off on a perilous journey into the unknown. The path ahead was uncertain, but their resolve was stronger than ever. They knew that breaking the curse would require not just courage, but endurance, faith, and above all, an unshakable belief in their love. The journey began through the rugged mountains that towered over the village. The climb was steep, the air thin, and the cold biting at their skin. Each step felt heavier than the last, but Elen and Leo pressed on, knowing that turning back was not an option. The mountains, once a place of solace for Elen, now felt like a barrier they had to overcome, a physical manifestation of the struggles they faced. As they ascended the peaks, the weather turned against them. Snow began to fall, first in soft, gentle flakes, but soon in thick, blinding gusts. The wind howled around them, whipping at their faces and making it nearly impossible to see the path ahead. But even as the storm raged, they held on to each other. Leo wrapped his arm around Elen, sheltering her from the worst of the cold, while Elen held onto his hand, grounding him in her warmth. They moved together, step by step, hearts beating in unison, until they finally reached the summit. From the top of the mountain, they could see the vastness of the world that lay before them. The village, now a distant memory, was far behind, and in front of them stretched an endless desert, shimmering beneath the harsh sun. Crossing the desert was the next trial. The scorching heat beat down on them, draining their energy with every step. The sand shifted beneath their feet, making each movement feel like a battle. Days turned into nights, and still, they pressed on, refusing to be defeated by the unrelenting sun. The desert tested not just their physical strength, but their will to continue. At times, it felt as though the heat was trying to wear down their spirits, to break the bond that held them together. But Elen and Leo refused to give in. They knew that their love was their greatest weapon. Every challenge they faced, every hardship they endured, only served to strengthen the connection between them. At night, as they rested beneath the stars, Leo would hold Elen close, his voice soft but filled with determination. "No force in the world can take you from me," he would say, his words a vow that echoed through the silence of the desert. "I will fight for you, for us, until my last breath." Tears often filled Ellen's eyes when she heard him speak, for she knew that his words were more than promises, they were truth. She felt the same, her heart swelling with love and gratitude for the man beside her. Together, they had faced storms and deserts, and yet their love had only grown stronger. But the trials were far from over. After weeks of crossing the desert, they found themselves at the edge of a dense, foreboding forest. The trees were ancient, their twisted branches creating a labyrinth of shadows. It was said that the forest was alive, filled with spirits that sought to trap anyone who dared enter. But Elen and Leo had no choice. If they were to break the curse, they had to go through the forest. The forest was unlike anything they had ever seen. The air was thick with mist, and the sounds of the outside world seemed to vanish as soon as they stepped beneath the canopy. Every step felt heavy, as though the ground itself was trying to pull them down. Shadows danced between the trees, and strange whispers filled the air, telling them to turn back, that their love would never survive. But again, Elen and Leo held fast to each other. The forest seemed to test their trust, their belief in one another. At times, it felt as though the trees were closing in, separating them, but each time, they found their way back to each other. The love they shared was a light that guided them through the darkness, a beacon that could not be extinguished. After days of wandering through the forest, they finally emerged on the other side, exhausted but triumphant. They had faced the challenges of nature, of fear, of doubt, and yet their love remained unbroken. But the greatest trial still lay ahead. In the distance, they could see the place where the curse had been born, a crumbling fortress at the edge of the world. The sight of it sent a chill down Ellen's spine. The walls of the fortress were blackened, as though scorched by fire, and the air around it seemed to hum with a dark energy. It was here that the curse had taken root, a place where countless lovers had fallen before them. As they approached the fortress, the sky darkened, and the wind howled through the broken towers. The air grew colder, biting at their skin, and the ground beneath them seemed to tremble. But Elen and Leo knew that they could not turn back. The curse had to be faced, and only together could they hope to defeat it. Inside the fortress, the air was thick with the weight of centuries of pain and loss. The walls seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, and the silence was deafening. The spirit of the curse was waiting for them, a force so dark and powerful that it had destroyed every love that had dared to challenge it. But Elen and Leo were different. Their love had been forged through fire, through storms, deserts, forests, and endless trials. They had faced the darkness and come out stronger. And as they stood in the heart of the fortress, hand in hand, they knew that no force, no matter how powerful, could break the bond they shared. The spirit of the curse appeared before them, its voice echoing through the halls, warning them that no love could survive its wrath. But Elen and Leo stood firm, their hearts beating as one. They had faced the impossible before, and they would do it again. Together, they were unstoppable. And so, with love as their shield and their hearts as their weapons, they prepared to face the final battle. Chapter 3: The Triumph of Hearts. The air inside the crumbling fortress was thick with an oppressive darkness, a cold chill that seemed to seep into the bones. Standing at the heart of the cursed place, Elen and Leo faced the spirit of the curse, a swirling mass of shadows, ancient and malevolent. It towered over them, filling the space with an overwhelming sense of dread. The spirit's voice, deep and hollow, echoed through the walls, a twisted symphony of hate and despair. "You dare stand before me," the spirit hissed, its voice cutting through the silence. "Love has no place here. You will be torn apart, like all those who came before you." The shadows around them began to writhe, growing thicker, more menacing. Dark whispers filled the air, creeping into their ears, trying to sow fear, doubt, and pain. Images of past lovers, their faces contorted in agony, flickered in the shadows as the curse sought to remind Elen and Leo of the countless souls it had destroyed. But in the face of such overwhelming darkness, Elen and Leo felt no fear. Side by side, their hands intertwined, they stood firm, hearts aligned, eyes locked on the spirit before them. They had endured too much, fought too hard, and their love had been tested in the fires of suffering and struggle. They had faced storms that raged, deserts that burned, and forests that whispered lies, and through it all, they had emerged stronger, bound not just by love, but by the unbreakable force of their hearts. Elen could feel the warmth of Leo's hand in hers, and it was this connection that anchored her, even as the curse's power tried to pull them apart. She turned to Leo, her heart swelling with the knowledge that they had already won the most important battle, the battle to love fearlessly, even in the face of impossible odds. The spirit's voice rose again, furious now, as it sent waves of darkness crashing towards them. "You will know pain. You will know loss," it roared. The force of its power struck them like a storm, filling the air with the weight of centuries of suffering, the sorrow of lovers who had been torn apart. But Elen and Leo didn't falter. In the face of the storm, they screamed, not in fear, but in defiance. It was a primal scream, a sound that came from the depths of their souls. They screamed their love into the void, their voices ringing out like a battle cry that shook the very walls of the fortress. They weren't just shouting words, they were declaring their love, their commitment, their unyielding belief that love, true, unwavering love, could conquer even the darkest of forces. The fortress seemed to tremble in response. The ground beneath their feet shook, and the shadows recoiled, as if startled by the sheer power of their voices. Ellen's heart pounded in her chest, but she knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that they were winning. Their love was more than a feeling, it was a force of nature, something pure and unstoppable. As they screamed, something incredible happened. A brilliant light began to radiate from within them, soft at first, like the first rays of dawn, but then growing brighter, fiercer, until it illuminated the entire fortress. The light wasn't just visible, it was tangible. It wrapped around them, surrounding them in a protective glow, pushing back the shadows that had once threatened to consume them. The spirit of the curse recoiled, its form flickering as the light began to overwhelm it. The darkness that had seemed so impenetrable now began to waver. The whispers that had filled the air were drowned out by the strength of Elen and Leo's love. The spirit, once so certain of its power, began to falter, its voice no longer a roar, but a desperate whisper. "No," it rasped, its form unraveling before their eyes. "This cannot be, no love is stronger than me." But it was too late. The light, fueled by the pure love Elen and Leo shared, was too strong, too brilliant to be contained. With one final scream, a cry of victory and triumph, they unleashed the full power of their love. The fortress walls shook violently, cracks spreading like lightning through the stone. The spirit of the curse let out a final, anguished howl as it was torn apart, its form disintegrating into nothingness, consumed by the light. And then, silence. The fortress crumbled around them, its dark magic shattered. The oppressive weight that had hung over the village for centuries vanished into the sky, replaced by a calm, clear stillness. The curse was broken. Elen and Leo stood amidst the ruins, the light around them slowly fading, but the warmth of their love still pulsing through the air. They had done it. Against all odds, against centuries of darkness, they had broken the curse with the power of their love. They stood together, holding each other, breathing in the freedom that now surrounded them. The silence didn't last long. From the distance, they heard the faint sound of footsteps, many footsteps, rushing towards them. The villagers, who had witnessed the dark clouds vanishing from the horizon, came running. Their faces, once filled with fear and suspicion, were now overwhelmed with disbelief and joy. Tears streamed down the faces of the villagers as they reached the ruins. They saw the destruction of the fortress and understood what had happened. Elen and Leo had done the impossible. They had faced the curse and emerged victorious, not with weapons or force, but with the strength of their love. The villagers erupted into cheers, their voices rising into the sky. People screamed and cried, their hearts overflowing with relief, gratitude, and joy. They had been saved, not just from the curse, but from the hopelessness that had gripped them for generations. Elen and Leo stood together, hand in hand, as the villagers surrounded them, their faces filled with awe. It was a victory not just for the two of them, but for everyone who had ever believed in love. Their triumph became a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of the human heart to overcome even the darkest of fates. In the days that followed, Elen and Leo's love story spread far beyond the village. Travelers came from distant lands to hear the tale of how two souls had defied fate and broken a curse that had lasted for centuries. Their love became legend, a story told around fires and in hushed tones, a reminder that love could conquer all. But for Elen and Leo, it was more than a story. It was their life, their truth. Together, they had faced the darkest forces of the world and emerged victorious. And as they stood on the edge of their new beginning, hand in hand, they knew that nothing, no curse, no darkness, could ever tear them apart. Their love, forged in the fires of trial and triumph, would live on forever, a beacon of hope for all who dared to believe in the power of the heart.